What's up, everybody? This is Frederick Douglass Bussey here, and I have a brand new toy which gave me a reason to go live and talk to you about something uh, to kind of test this out, make sure it works, to kind of see how it works in the studio. This thing is huge. I didn't realize it was going to be this size, so I'm trying to fit it all into the frame. Can't all do that, but it's giving me plenty of space to work with, and we're going to talk about a few things here today. For those of you who know me, you know that I work with entrepreneurs and leaders to be able to help them to realize the untapped potential inside of their business. And this framework works for a lot of different places in life and in leadership and etc. But I think the things we're going to talk about today will be extremely valuable. You want one of these boards? Well, you can have one. Um, Make sure if you're watching this on Facebook, give Facebook permission so I can see your name and say hi to you as well. If you're watching on YouTube, wherever the case may be, we're going live in several places, including inside the Facebook group Seven Figure Circle Million Dollar Mastermind, which is my Facebook group for 6 and 7 figure entrepreneurs. But anyway, I want to get to the topic for the day and really dive into it. And one of the reasons why this kind of was top of mind, and a great reason for doing a whiteboard session today, was because I see a lot of businesses and I see a lot of entrepreneurs making this key mistake. Um, I grew up in an era where it's funny because my kids, they watch, they have Netflix and they've got Disney Plus and they've got all these different things, that these platforms that they can watch, which don't necessarily have commercials, right? And if you were in my age, Gen X, Gen Y, Gen Z, you grew up with commercials on television. And so you grew up with the idea of being inundated with ads and all these types of messages and things of that nature. And so you wouldn't really think about it. And now, while it's easier to reach more people in more places, it's harder to cut through all the noise. And if you're All right, so it's very possible I've been talking the entire time and doing this on mute. If it is, we'll kind of back it up. But the concept that we're talking about here is why your marketing doesn't work. And I think this is actually a great illustration. Um, the reason why this is a great illustration is because if you're talking to people but they can't hear you, your marketing isn't going to work, right? So I have a microphone right here, and it's plugged into my system here. But there's a simple button. The mute button was on for a while and it didn't get unmuted. Now, if that's the case, then what we're doing is we're struggling to get our message across. People can't even hear you. Now, there's a lot of noise going on. There's a lot of things that are happening, etc. And it can be really, really frustrating for you as a business owner, entrepreneur, if things aren't working, but you don't know why. You don't know why you're not connecting with your message. And so part of it is because we are doing one of these three things, but we're either doing it out of order or we think we're doing one thing and we're actually doing another, right? So if you think you are, advertising is about creating awareness. It's about telling people that you exist, okay? My ring light is right in the middle of this. Hey, so it's highlighting the advertising, right? But advertising is about telling people that you even exist at all, right? It's very hard to sell to people, to market to them, whatever the case may be, if they don't you exist, right? You have to be around, you have to be present. And so a lot of people are talking about social media marketing and things of that nature, and they're talking about building engagement, building awareness, building an audience, etc. But really they're complaining that with advertising. It is simply saying, hey, I'm here. Now, advertising doesn't mean that you necessarily have to be selling people something, but you have to advertise. You have to let them know that you exist, right? The next thing is to be able to increase your influence. How can I create a bond of trust? How can I get people to engage with what I'm talking about in a way that creates more value for them? And the word that I love to, when you define the word value, it talks about the fact that value is defined as an advantage, right? So what people do when they talk about value is I want something to be valuable. And what they really mean is they're creating content, and it may or may not be valuable to people depending on the context of where they are in their lives, in their businesses, the experience that they're having, whatever the case may be. That makes it tough because if they are not hearing you, and if they're not understanding what you're saying and you're not able to build that trust, then it's going to be harder. The thing that you want to be able to do, and that I'm always striving for instance, is to be valuable, right? And creating an advantage for people. What is the advantage of them listening to you, talking to you, engaging with your content, engaging with your product or your marketing, right? If you're not doing those things, you are not creating an advantage. And that in and of itself is a problem. So what you want to be able to do is create more influence by creating that advantage. The more advantageous it is to people, whether you're entertaining them, whether you are teaching them something, whether you are highlighting a problem that they didn't know it existed, whether you are persuading them in terms of an argument. It could be about politics, it could be about religion, it could be about something that they're buying online, whatever the case may be. If they are not understanding the advantage of taking the time to spend time with you for any amount of time, then it doesn't really matter, right? And so you can't build that influence. But that's the key thing that you want to be able to do here with your marketing. Sales is about persuasion. Sales is about closing the deal, and no business can exist without sales, which means that the people are actually paying you money to buy the thing, the service, the product that you're offering. That's why that's so important. You want to be able to increase your sales, but you've got to be able to close the deal. Why will people give you money for this thing, right? And they will give you money. This gets easier when these two things are connected and you've been doing them the right way, right? So you increase your awareness, then you want to deepen your influence, and then you got to close the sale, right? So those are the three elements of sales and marketing and advertising. These three elements are all the things that are affecting how important and powerful your marketing is. Now, there's a couple of things I want to share with you right quick, right? So a lot of people want to use this thing right here. They want to focus on branding, right? So a lot of people are really, really worried about branding. They're saying, well, I got to get my brand, I got to get my logo, my slogan, and all the different colors and all of these different things, right? And the thing that people don't realize about branding, and we'll talk about this more in a separate video, But the thing that people don't realize about branding is that branding doesn't happen here, right? Or here, or even here. Branding happens here. Let me put the arrow here. All right. Branding happens after the sale. Why does that happen afterwards? Why is it so important? Because if you're putting the branding here, but people don't know who you are, there's no context for it. If you're putting your branding here, it can be helpful in terms of standing out sometimes, but it doesn't get deep into the experience. And if you're putting it here, it does no context whatsoever, right? Branding happens here. They see your logo, great, they know you exist. They see your logo when you're marketing, great. That can help them to frame a impression of you, but it doesn't necessarily mean that it's in context, because branding at this point is about you, not them. If you're doing the branding here, that just interrupts the conversation. There's really no role that branding plays other than what happens afterwards, the experience that is happening overall, right? These things are all connected. And so that is the through line of the journey, your customer journey that you're creating. Now, it doesn't matter whether you are a church and you're bringing in new members. It doesn't matter if you are a political party and you're bringing in, you're trying to persuade people to join your side of the argument. It doesn't matter if you are a business and you are trying to get more customers or clients. If you are not engaging in these three things and you're not educating people on who you are, you're not educating them on how you can help them, and you're not educating them on why they should engage, why they should actually commit to selling, to buying your product or giving you money or whatever the case may be, then none of this other stuff matters, right? So branding is what happens, the relationship in our mind, the emotional connection that we have with this experience. That's what happens when you afterwards, after you've done all these things successfully, right? And let me get to the real key, the real reason why your marketing advertising doesn't work. And I need a eraser. Imagine me having all this and not having an eraser. Okay, so we're going to do this. All right. The reason why people get caught up and why their marketing doesn't work is because there's really two sides of a conversation, right? So there's you, and then there is your audience. We'll call it your audience. It could be your potential customer, prospect, other thing right there, right? So you, your business, organization, whatever, right? Here's the thing that's key. And let me make sure that you guys can hear me, because this mic may be going in and out. I was on mute before. I see some people hopping in and out. I want to make sure that you're listening to me, right? But here's the real key. In order to create this connection, you want to send a message to this person, right? Now, let's say that they have a problem, right? The problem exists here. We'll call this the problem. And here you have your solution. When your audience has this problem, this is all they can see. But for many businesses, their solution is all they focus on. So they want to tell people about their solution, but all people can think about is their problem, which in effect blocks them from hearing your solution unless you can connect the dots for them. What people really need to do is you need to be focused on creating an awareness of your understanding of the problem. So instead of positioning yourself on the opposite side of the problem, what you should do is come over here and position yourself actually here. So what you're doing is now you want to talk to them about their problem and lead them to your solution, right? But when you position yourself from their perspective, you're going to be able to communicate to them in a way that they understand. It makes more sense, right? So when it makes more sense, they're able to understand and come through with a different framework. Now your marketing is more influential. Now the awareness of what you're bringing them makes more sense. You're creating more context for who they actually are and what you're actually doing, right? So when you're approaching it from this way, you're actually trying to magnify your solution and minimize their problem. The problem with that is that becomes anti-persuasive. It makes you less influential because people believe that their problem is more important than your solution. Their problem is causing them pain. Their problem is causing them inconvenience. Their problem is causing them headaches. And if your solution is not directly relatable, they don't understand why you're talking about that. And I'm not talking about just some low level, we don't use the analogy of aspirin, right? Tylenol. When somebody has a headache, if you have a headache and I offer you Tylenol, then that's going to be a very persuasive thing because you're telling me that you're going to solve my problem. I have a headache, you're going to take it away. However, imagine if somebody just kind of started coming up to you and walked up to you and said, hey, I've got these pills, you should take them. They're small, they're easy to swallow, they get into your bloodstream really, really quickly. Great. What does that have to do with me? Right? But if I see you coming along and I'm positioning myself here and I'm saying, hey, I see this frown on your face. What's going on? I see that you seem like you're being in distress. You're in pain. Oh, I've got a massive headache. It's really driving me crazy. Oh, wow. You've got a headache. Well, what is that headache? What's going on with the headache? I've had it for an hour or two. It's keeping me up at night. I can't sleep, or it's keeping me from doing my work or taking care of my kids or being present with my spouse, whatever the case may be. I'm approaching it from their standpoint. They're thinking all these things, right? So they're thinking about all the problems and all the pain that this is causing them, right? And so when they're doing that and they're thinking about that, and I'm positioning myself on their side, now my solution gets bigger, right? Because it's going to eliminate their problem. And now I am a trusted ally because I am coming at it from their side. What most people are doing is that they're standing on the wrong side of the problem. And they need to learn how to position themselves in a way that they can hear what their people are thinking, what they're saying. What a lot of people don't do is take the time to really understand the position, the client, the person, the audience that they're really speaking to. The better you understand them, the better you'll understand their problem. The more you understand their problem, the better you can articulate why your solution is the best one, is the most powerful one, is the one that's going to resonate the most. All right. So hopefully that's been valuable for you. If you're not a member of the 7-Figure Circle $1 Million Mastermind, feel free to drop in there. You go to my profile on Facebook, you can just click over there as well. Try and drop a link over there. I should be able to do this, but I'm new on StreamYard. We're going to be adding more features and things like that, but I wanted to kind of illustrate that as well. So if that's been valuable for you, you're watching this in the comments below, just drop a 1. If you're dropping this in a replay, drop a replay. Let me know. If you couldn't hear the sound, let me know. We'll do it all over again. But as always, I'm Frederick Douglass Bussey, ever forward.